Rain threaded the alley like silver stitches. A door gasped. He ran through it. Kang Min-jae, Jae on posters, cautionary tale in headlines, hit the night with a half mask and a heartbeat he couldn't negotiate. Paparazzi bloomed at the corner, flash like summer lightning. He flattened against brick, counted to 3, lost the number, counted again. His in-ear buzzed with the manager's voice, too bright to be kind. Left, 2 meters. No! An umbrella slid into the frame of his life. Black, ordinary, held by a girl who said, "You can't breathe if you drown in cameras." As if she'd been practicing that line all week. He stepped under it before pride could veto oxygen. Rain turned the world soft. The girl looked up, not at the mask, at his eyes. "You okay? A juicy in eyeliner?" He almost laughed. "Not an a juicy. Then don't stand like one." She tugged his sleeve and the umbrella dragged the night away from them, carving a narrow, private tunnel through weather and noise. They walked 3 doors, turned twice, and let the storm eat the rest of the city. At the mouth of a convenience store, she folded the umbrella with the ritual of someone who needed things to be neat even when the world refused. "You should go," she said. "People with lenses are allergic to giving up." "Your name?" he asked, instantly hating himself for asking. Lee Era. She didn't ask for his. The bell on the store door chimed. She disappeared into fluorescent normal. He stood in the rain long enough to feel foolish, then left because running was his best skill. By morning, a blind item learned to scream.
J'y engaged?
Mystery girl? The agency phones became tiny sirens. A meeting filled a room with vocabulary that could hurt a person if you didn't wear it carefully. Crisis, contract, optics. Miss Choi, the manager who knew where bodies and budgets were buried, slid a tablet across the glass.
Pausa o nara zumbraya.
Pause on Era's face. Zoom until pixels begged for mercy. "She is nobody," the CEO said like a prayer and a plan. "Perfect. She is a person," Miss Choi corrected, which was why she kept her job longer than men expected. But yes, unconnected, clean, off radar. Min-jae stared at the paused frame until the mask on the table looked like an apology he hadn't written yet. The CEO clapped his hands once, like a judge waking a courtroom. "Hire her. She's not an actress," Min-jae said. "She doesn't have to act," the CEO smiled. "She has to stand there and let the storm believe her." Lee Era stacked laundry bundles into a blue basket like debts into a schedule. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. Voice with expensive vowels. "We'd like to offer you a job." "At the convenience store?" Era said, because jokes are armor when hunger gets ideas. "At an agency," the voice said. "For representation." "I'm not a singer," Era said, though she was pretty good at humming while the world didn't listen. "We heard," the voice said, which was not what she expected to hear from the universe. "Come to the 9th floor. Bring yourself." On the 9th floor, carpet muffled ambition. Miss Choi slid tea toward Era, watched the way the girl wrapped fingers around heat. "You shielded someone last night," Miss Choi said. "I shield lots of someones," Era said. "The city reigns. How do you feel about pretending?" Miss Choi asked.
Ara blinka.
"Like survival, but context would be nice." The contract was 4 pages and 50 traps. Short-term engagement, public appearances, no personal posts, no kissing without coordination. Era laughed at that last one until she realized laughter was not required. "I have a brother," she said. "He needs school. He needs noodles. He needs me." "You'll be paid," Miss Choi said, and slid a number across the desk so clean it squeaked. Era thought of the landlord's red ink, about to-do lists that multiplied in the dark, about umbrellas. She signed where ink turned a stranger into scaffolding. Training began in a practice room where mirrors remembered better versions of everyone. Etiquette taught hands where to be in photos. Media coaching taught answers that could survive a headline. They practiced walking 2 steps apart and then one and then none, because intimacy in public has a choreography and someone has to learn it fast. "Don't look at my mask," he said in the quiet between lessons. "It's just there to help people look at the idea of me." What about the person? Era asked. He adjusted the in-ear that sometimes felt like a leash. He's under review. They rehearsed a first-date story that would sound plausible to a god and a gossip blog.
Rahmenstand.
Rain, laughing at something small. They practiced a handhold so natural electrons would sign off on it. He learned she snorted when she really laughed and then was embarrassed about it for exactly 2 seconds. She learned he could sing without moving his lips when nerves cued at his throat. Breathe here, she said. When the room suddenly got too small, she touched his wrist, light, precise, 2 fingers on a pulse as if reminding a heart how to calendar. The tremor didn't leave. It learned manners. The gala arrived like a thunderclap in a tux. The agency tailored him into a suit that made gravity reconsider its options. They dressed Era in a black dress that turned shadows into silk. Shoes she didn't deserve and immediately earned. Hair pinned like a thesis. Ms. Choi fastened a simple ring on Era's finger, a promise to no one and everyone. Remember, Ms. Choi said, eyes on both of them like a lighthouse. We control the first photo. We survive the rest. Flash knew their names before the MC did. The red carpet unfurled like a dare. Min-jae offered his arm. Era took it. He whispered, 2 steps, pause, left shoulder to camera. And she did exactly that, improvising the part where she forgot to be afraid. They smiled, a version of themselves the world could buy. For a moment it worked. Inside, Crystal insisted on being relevant. Brands spoke Latin through logos. The orchestra covered the sound of people deciding what they thought of you. At the charity wall, the first reporter asked a question with teeth. When did you know? Era opened her mouth to say the date they had memorized. The room blinked. A screen above the stage lit with a tabloid's idea of romance. A grainy photo. Era's face. A man beside her, profile like a knife. Caption blooming fast. Who is RYUCNTOJ's FIANC? The room didn't breathe. It took receipts. Photos multiplied like rumors learned to. A video followed, Era at a bus stop 6 months ago, standing very close to Ryu Seon, the rival who could do kindness like calculus. The clip didn't show the part where he was consoling her after the landlord's call. It showed the part where their foreheads almost touched, because almost is a better headline than is. Min-jae's in-ear erupted. Stay. Smile. We spin. We. Ms. Choi's voice hit a wall and rewrote itself. We leave. Now. Paparazzi teleported through doors. Flash became weather. Questions became accusations with verbs sharpened. Homewrecker? Gold digger? Plant?
Aras fingers dictanat.
Min-jae angled his body to block a lens. The ring on her hand suddenly weighed as much as an apology. Don't look at the screen, he said. Too late. She looked anyway and saw her own life edited by strangers. She tasted metal. She remembered rent. She remembered a small boy asleep with math homework on his chest. She remembered a black umbrella saving a stranger in a mask and wondered what saving even meant if the world could do this much with a pause button. Exit? She asked. Not that one, Ms. Choi said, already building a path with the kind of crisis manners that belonged in textbooks. Back corridor. No interviews. We do our talking later. They moved. The door hissed as if insulted. A corridor swallowed them, mercifully undecorated. Outside, the city remembered how to be rain. In the car, nobody spoke first. The driver looked at mirrors like they owed him money. Min-jae's fingers trembled and then didn't, because Era's hand found his wrist without asking permission from the plot. He breathed like learning to ride a bicycle while it was moving. The phone on Ms. Choi's lap lit with a new notification that wanted to ruin someone. She didn't show them. She stared at the mask on Min-jae's face and the ring on Era's finger and understood how thin a story can be when the wind decides to be cruel. Tomorrow, Ms. Choi said, voice flat like a scalpel. We control the narrative. What if the narrative doesn't want to be controlled? Era asked and wished immediately she hadn't. Then we fight, Ms. Choi said, with truth and timing. A second notification bloomed. Bigger outlet. Same photo. Slower frame. In this cut, Ryu Seon's hand was on Era's cheek, gentle enough to make strangers jealous. The caption learned a new word. Betrayal. The car stopped at a red light that didn't care about fame. Outside, a teenage fan held a hand-drawn sign in plastic to keep it from dissolving. Jay, don't disappear. He didn't. He looked at Era. She looked back. A decision passed between them like a note in a classroom. Teach me where to breathe, he said quietly. Here, she said, pressing 2 fingers to his wrist. And here, she added, touching the place near his collarbone where a voice hides when it's scared. The light turned green. The city moved again. The mask stayed on. The ring stayed on. The lie became a bridge they'd have to cross faster than the internet could burn it. Somewhere a timeline trended. Somewhere a rival smiled without teeth. Somewhere a boy fell asleep holding a math pencil like a flag. The rain drummed on the roof of the car, steady as a metronome. In the steady, Era heard the sound a life makes when it is about to be edited by courage. Back at the agency, the elevator doors opened onto a lobby that smelled like wet umbrellas and strategy. They stepped out together. Cameras waited on one side, doors on the other. The mask gleamed. The ring caught the light. Choi stood between them, patient. Ready? Ms. Choi asked. No, Era said honestly. Good, Ms. Choi answered. Then you won't pretend when you need to tell the truth. They walked into the room where stories get assigned to people. The screen at the far end refreshed. A new clip started to play. The title bar shouted in a font that didn't believe in mercy. Did Jay's fiancé sabotage his stage? Exclusive CCTV next. Asterisk asterisk. Morning arrived like a courtroom. The city opened its blinds. Judgment poured in. Hashtag who is Era climbed. Then sprouted branches that knew her school, her part-time shifts, the color of her umbrella. A drone word passed her window and pretended to be a bird. Ms. Choi made calls that sounded like weather reports. Calm voice, dangerous clouds. Safe house, she said, opening a door that had 3 locks and no personality. We'll give them the footage they want and none of the blood. Footage? Era asked. Domestic slice of life, Ms. Choi said. Light, warm, harmless. People forgive what feels familiar. Cook something. Fold something. Smile like you believe in chairs. The safe house had the polite aesthetic of a hotel that had studied human joy and taken only the parts that dust well. A bowl of lemons looked brave. 2 cameras blinked red like patient pets. A list on the counter suggested content the way a doctor suggests diet. Ramen. Laundry. Board game. Era glanced at Min-jae. He looked like a man who had never played a board game without a strategist present. They started with ramen. He fumbled the packets like they were contracts. She took the pot like it owed her money and won. Steam made halos they didn't deserve. He tried a joke and it applied for citizenship. She laughed without asking for permission and the room remembered almost being home. Between takes, the drone came back and studied the curtains. Ms. Choi shut it down with a call to a department that didn't have a name you could say in a cheerful tone. We monitor, she said. We breathe. We don't feed fires. Speaking of breathing, Era said and held up her fingers, the 2 that had made a map on his pulse. Today, when it hits, we try 10 seconds in, 10 out. It? He asked, as if specifics were ruder than panic. The wall, she said. When it moves toward you. He nodded. The wall had been moving toward him since the accident. Strobe, crowd, the crown weight of eyes that wanted more than he had that night. The mask helped. So did pretending he was a brand and not a person whose hands sometimes forgot how to be quiet. But brands don't learn. People do. He watched her count with him. He survived the minute. The minute did not mind. The algorithm wanted proof of domesticity. They gave it laundry. He folded shirts badly on purpose. She folded them correctly because she didn't know how not to try. He burned one gyoza and made the other a masterpiece, which is how the internet prefers its men. Flawed, but only where endearing lives. She taped a sign on the fridge that said breathe here and the comments warmed by 2 degrees without knowing why. Then the doorbell rang. Not the safe house door, her real apartment. A courier with a smile and too many teeth placed a gift basket at her brother's feet. Within the cellophane, snacks, a hoodie, A selfie from Ryusean winking as if charity were a sport. The caption read, "Stay strong. You've got a great Nuna." The internet held the basket up to the light and called it kindness. Era held it up to her gut and called it leverage. "We send it back," she said. But her brother, 15, hopeful, tired, hugged the hoodie and said it was the softest thing he'd touched in a month that wasn't a blanket. She didn't tear it away. She tore herself a little instead. At noon, the agency wanted a couple Q&A. They sat on the couch, knees almost culturally appropriate. Questions rolled like polite marbles. Favorite snack? Place to hide? First impression? He said, "Strong." Before he remembered the script demanded something charming. She said, "Braver than he thinks." Before she remembered fans preferred adjectives that fit on t-shirts. When the Q&A ended, Ms. Choi's phone lit with a sponsor's smile that wasn't smiling anymore. "We need to stabilize," she said, and placed a velvet box on the table like a stethoscope. Inside a ring, not the prop from last night. A new ring, bespoke, with a tiny crown of diamonds squinting in expensive concentration. Campaign shoot, 48 hours. We stage an official proposal to drown noise. Then we ride the wave. Era touched the box like it might bite. "And if the wave buries someone, then we dig them out," Miss Choi said. And for a moment the manager's armor slipped enough to show a person underneath. A woman who had put out fires for too long and still cared if anyone got burned. They escaped the safe house after dark in baseball caps and the kind of anonymity that requires you to breathe like a civilian. Busking hour. The city tuned itself down to a hum. In a side street where the neon was too tired to brag, Min-jae took off the mask. No stage, no strobe, just air that hadn't learned to bite. He sang like something was knocking from the inside, and he finally remembered where the door was. It wasn't perfect. Perfect is an alibi anyway. It was honest. Era listened with the small, intense quiet of a person who wanted evidence of a future. "You sound like you," she said. "I don't know who that is yet," he said. "Then we'll learn him," she answered. And the "we" in that sentence found soft ground and made a home. Kid tossed a coin. A woman paused and smiled in that way strangers sometimes smile when life accidentally lets them witness something people usually hide. He finished the song. A beat of stillness. Then the world resumed its regularly scheduled chaos. They walked until a street lamp made them stop and call it beautiful. "If we could be nobody," he said. "Would we? Only if we could be nobody together," she said, then startled at her own mouth, which had a habit of telling the truth at inconvenient times. Before midnight, the internet changed outfits. A new hashtag learned to sprint. Hashtag sabotage Fiancée. A blurred clip from backstage. A timestamp that meant to accuse. The caption, cheerful as a guillotine. Jae's fiancé enters dressing room minutes before the accident. "Turn it off," Ms. Choi said to no one in particular and everyone she could reach. The clip didn't care. It multiplied like a rumor in heat. "It wasn't me," Era said to the screen, which was an unhelpful witness. "I was delivering throat tea." "Ms. Choi, I was with the stagehand Min." "Min is here," Ms. Choi said, dialing. "And we're going to take this apart the way a surgeon takes apart a lie." Her fingers became a command line. "Get me raw feeds, overlays, entry logs." In the safe house, the drone returned like an untrained thought. Min-jae moved to the window and then away from it, fighting the old muscle memory. Hide, vanish, comply. Era watched the tremor start in his hand and interrupt itself. She didn't touch his wrist this time. She touched his shoulder and the world relented an inch. "Tell me the origin," she said softly. "Or tell me nothing. But don't tell yourself the mask is the only way." He stared at the mask on the table, the seam where his brand met his skin. "The night after the accident," he said slowly, "I looked at my reflection and didn't know which part of me people wanted. The mask told me, they want the idea. Saved me. It also trapped me somewhere tidy. Then let it be a tool," she said. "Tools don't get to be gods." A message pinged. From Ryusean. A photo of him with Era's brother, smiling like a billboard. "Anytime you need help, Nuna." followed by a second message that didn't pretend. If he drops you, I won't. Era's jaw made a quiet line. She typed stop using my family and didn't send it. She put the phone face down and saw her own face in the black. A girl who could carry groceries and a public narrative at the same time if no one asked her to do it forever. At 3 in the morning, Ms. Choi's door opened the way victories do when they are still slippery. We found it, she said, shoulders refusing to brag. A VIP seat. A laser pointer. Frame by frame, you can see the beam track just before the fall. And the clip of Era? Min-jae asked. Spliced, Ms. Choi said. A staffer with access. We have change logs. IPs. I want to be angrier than I am tired. Who? Era whispered. Someone who will be very unemployed, Ms. Choi said, then aimed her phone at the table and dropped a neat constellation of files into a shared folder. We clear you on paper, but that won't fix comments. People don't read paperwork when their hunger is louder. So we show them, Min-jae said. On what? Era asked. Live, Ms. Choi answered. Eyes like steel you could trust to hold a bridge. If they don't trust the agency's cut, we give them a cut they can't accuse of edits. She booked a sit-down with a late-night talk show that liked bruised stars and redemption arcs. She wore a suit that argued with anybody's timeline. She told them exactly how much truth they'd get and exactly how long they could have to get it. We bring our own files, she said. We control playback. Will it work? Era asked. It will be fair, Ms. Choi said. Fair is the only thing I can sleep next to. The day of the show smelled like hairspray and electricity. The studio crew orbited the 2 chairs like planets checking their gravity. A makeup artist powdered courage. A stage manager counted down in a voice that had comforted bigger disasters. In the green room, Min-jae stared at the mask on the table and didn't pick it up. Era pressed 2 fingers to his pulse, and that was the only rehearsal they needed. The host smiled with teeth that had negotiated many confessions. Welcome back to Midnight Soul, she purred. Tonight, Jae and his fiancée. Fans are worried. Sponsors are watching. But we're going to ask the simplest question of all. The red light perched on the camera's shoulder like a hawk. The audience leaned forward, hungry for a sentence with an ending they could repeat to their group chats. The host turned to Era first, choosing violence politely. Is your engagement real? She asked. Or is it a lie? The studio exhaled. The clock above the camera learned a new second. Era looked at Min-jae. He didn't nod. He didn't shake his head. He did something she had never seen him do in public. He reached up. He took off the mask. Gasps are cliché because they happen. He set it on the coffee table like a friend he'd outgrown but would still invite to holidays. He looked into the lens and let it look back. The tremor in his hand considered the new rules and decided to be small. My name is Kang Min-jae, he said, voice level. I have panic attacks. I'm getting help. And the person who helped me breathe through last night did not sabotage me. The host smiled the smile she saves for moments that will be replayed in segments. Strong words, she said lightly. But words. We brought pictures, Ms. Choi called from offstage. The screens behind them lit with timestamps, overlays, the calm language of evidence. The audience watched a red line cut the air from the VIP pit. They watched the dressing room clip expand to show the stagehand entering with the thermos, Era arriving later with tea, both leaving before the screw that had been loosened by someone else decided to be important. So, the host said softly, trying to find a way to keep the segment fun. If your engagement started as a contract, Era felt the shape of the next word, lie, arrive like a train. She beat it to the platform. It started as a shield, she said. But shields aren't the only thing we were. The audience didn't know whether to clap. The internet did. It split down the middle the way rivers do when a rock gets brave. Time, the stage manager whispered. One more. The host bargained with the universe. If you could take it back. The contract, the storm, all of it, would you? The camera caught a million small things. The way his shoulders lowered a centimeter when she looked at him. The way her hand flexed once like a person resisting the urge to guard a fragile thing. No, Min-jae said. No, Era echoed. The host smiled as if someone had written her a better line than she deserved. Then I suppose, she said, we'll see you at the ring campaign? The studio laughed, the way crowds do when they want to be kind to the end of a moment. The band played them to commercial. The red light cooled. Backstage, Ms. Choi exhaled for the first time all day and then remembered how to inhale again. We didn't lose, she said, as if testing the sentence. We didn't win, Era said. No, Ms. Choi agreed. We told the truth in a room that usually rents it. On the sidewalk outside, the night had put its jewelry on again. Fans waited behind barriers, not shouting, not demanding, just holding signs that said sing when you can breathe and we've got time. Someone had drawn Era with a cartoon umbrella over a very literal heart. The likeness was terrible. The feeling was perfect. A notification buzzed in Ms. Choi's pocket. An incoming email with attachments and a subject line that made her jaw go cold. CCTV, alternate angle. She opened it and saw a frame from a corner camera nobody had requested because nobody knew it existed. The laser beam. The VIP pit. A hand, unmistakable if you'd spent 10 years scheduling it, lowering the pointer. The sender line had no name, just an address that loved anonymity. The message body read, "Not Ryu. Check your own house." The knight leaned in, listening. Miss Choi's eyes hardened the way steel does when it remembers it can be a sword. She pocketed the phone. "Tomorrow," she said to both of them and to herself, "we change targets." The wind nudged the mask in its little box. It didn't fall. It didn't need to. The choice already had. The city wore dawn like a bandage. In the van, nobody spoke until the traffic did it for them. Miss Choi kept her phone face down, as if mercy lived under glass. "Say it," Era whispered. Miss Choi turned the screen. Freeze frame. The VIP pit, laser dot alive. A hand lowering the pointer with the bored precision of someone who expected to get away with it. The sender's line had no name. The message read, "Not Ryu. Check your own house." "Whose hand?" Min-jae asked, though his voice knew before his eyes did. "Head of security," Ms. Choi said. "Mr. Du." She didn't look away. And Mr. Du only moves when Mr. Han says jump. The agency's lobby smelled like wet umbrellas and lies that wore neckties. Mr. Han waited with a performance smile. "Congratulations on last night," he said. "Honesty plays, but we still need a breakup. Soft, clean, ring campaign after. We control the arc. We control the truth," Ms. Choi answered. "And the truth is in your house." Something flickered behind Mr. Han's eyes. Annoyance, or maybe recognition that the chessboard had started using its own rules. "Careful, Choi." "Always," she said. "Practice room. No mirrors tonight. Just taped X's on the floor and a pair of earbuds sharing a quiet rebellion." Min-jae sat against the wall, mask on the bench, throat raw from defending himself without singing a note. "Tell me the origin," Era said, soft as backstage. "Not the PR version. The human one." He stared at the scuffed wood, then at her. "A year ago, mid-set. Strobe hit wrong. An ear hissed. I heard 1,000 people wanting more than I could give. I froze. The mask said, 'They can look at me while you learn how to breathe.'" He huffed a laugh that didn't think it was funny. "I kept breathing. I forgot to stop hiding." They split the earbuds. His demo track filled the hollow between them. He sang a verse under his breath. Era watched his hands. Not the tremor, the steadiness coming back by inches. She leaned in. The air went warm. A near kiss gathered like weather. The door clicked. "Ms. Choi, we have 10 minutes of not being listened to. Use them." "How bad?" Era asked. "Bad enough to stage a fire drill," Ms. Choi said. "Dues wiped the VIP footage off our servers. What they didn't know was the talk show's backup. I copied it. But if we go at Han with this, he buries you both. Sponsors, schedules, the works. So we go around him," Era said. "Live. Live is a church with microphones," Ms. Choi said. "I'm booking Seoul Soundstage, Min-jae's showcase this weekend. We control screens. We play the angle. We put the mask on the table and the truth on the wall. Han will kill the power," Min-jae said. "Then we bring our own." Miss Choi said, and for the first time that day she almost smiled. Afternoon bled into meetings nobody wanted to remember. Lawyers parsed verbs. PR wrote apologies in drafts prepared for every outcome but the right one. The internet did what the internet does. It decided, undecided, decided again. Era scrolled until the words stopped being words and became weather. She closed her phone the way you close a window on a storm you can't afford to rename. At home, the apartment had learned cautious joy. Era's brother held up a math test with a score that didn't apologize. "Nuna," he said, "are you famous?" "Famous is a kind of weather," she said. "It passes." He pointed at the TV. A morning panel debated whether Era looked too calm to be innocent, which is how panels talk when they can't be bothered to love anyone. Era switched the channel to a cooking show and cut onions until the kitchen forgave her for being elsewhere. Evening. Ms. Choi's fire drill. A tiny war room in a borrowed co-working space, whiteboard, 2 laptops, 3 cups of coffee that lied about being fresh. The wall wore a timeline like a crime yarn. "Min," Ms. Choi said into her phone, "walk me through the backstage corridor again." The stagehand's tired, honest voice filled the room. He described the thermos, the tray, the door latch that sticks unless you slap it just right. He swore on his mother's back pain Era hadn't touched the cable. "And the VIP seat?" Ms. Choi asked. "Who signed it out?" Silence. Then, "Due's assistant. For special guest. No name. Pull the staff entry logs," Ms. Choi told her other line. "And check the maintenance shop. I want receipts, laser pointer purchase, battery swaps. If they're sloppy, they used a company card." While calls ricocheted, Min-jae and Era stood by the window and let Seoul sunset do its quiet work. "If you want to walk," he said, voice careful, "walk now. Before the concert. Before the next storm. I'll tell them it was me." Era looked at him, really looked, the way you do when you're done being polite to fear. "I didn't sign up to be brave," she said. "But I am not leaving you in a room with this alone." He exhaled like a man who'd been allowed to not be alone for the first time since he learned how to perform. The first domino fell at 10 p.m. An email landed, maintenance invoice, laser diode replacement, billed to security. 10 minutes later, a janitor forwarded a photo of Mr. Du in the VIP pit, captioned with corrosive sarcasm. "Nice special guest. Print it and laminate it," Miss Choi muttered. "We're going to court after we go to church." Morning of the showcase. The venue felt like a ship before launch. Ropes tightened, lights tested, crew moving in unison because chaos has excellent choreography. Mr. Han paced the catwalk above the stage, chewed a mint like it had betrayed him. "You will wear the mask for the first 2 songs, he told Min-jae. "You will announce a break in the engagement. We will pivot to a philanthropy pivot. You will be grateful." "I will sing," Min-jae said. "And I will tell the truth." "Don't do this," Han warned, edges sharpening. "You are not stronger than the market." "I'm not arguing with the market," Min-jae said. "I'm arguing with you." Han left with a smile that had sued better men. Backstage, Ms. Choi handed Era a lanyard, a lav mic, a tiny pack that looked too small to hold courage. "If they cut house power," she said, "our feed rides the backup. If they cut the backup, we hotspot the projector. If they kill the projector, we hold up the receipts and read them out loud on camera. We don't blink." Era nodded. Her hands shook for the first time all week. She let them. Fear is a sign that your body still cares. Showtime pulsed through the floorboards. Fans lifted light sticks, the arena turning into a galaxy that believed. First song. Mask on, voice steady, walls holding. Second song. A breath caught in a throat and released on pitch. The crowd took the chorus and made it public property. Third song cue. The lights dipped for the stage patter. Min-jae walked to center, mask in hand. The cue in his in-ear said, "Break up now." He took the earpiece out. The crowd roared at the small, rebellious grace of it. "My name is Kang Min-jae," he said. Unamplified honesty somehow louder than the sound system. "I promised to sing when I could breathe. I can breathe." He set the mask on the floor like an offering. The arena quieted, 10,000 people learning how to listen. Someone tried to make me fall, he said. Someone tried to teach you to hate the person who kept me standing. The rear screen lit, timeline overlay, angle from the talk show backup, the laser dot crawling like a red ant toward a cable. The VIP pit hand. Mr. Do's ring catching light. A maintenance invoice. The audience inhaled as one organism. The house lights flickered. The screen went black. Power loss, a tech barked. No, Miss Choi said into her mic, power theft. Backup surged, coughed, caught. The screen came back. Not the venue feed now, but a direct plug from a laptop labeled CHOI_. Receipts scrolled like a sermon. Min-jae's voice didn't rise. It steadied. I won't sell you a lie tonight, he said. This started as a shield. It became us. He looked stage left, where Era stood in the wing, caught between the privacy she had spent her life protecting and the truth that wanted to be public. She stepped into the light. The crowd didn't scream. It did something rarer. It hushed, like a chapel welcoming two people who hadn't planned to become brave in front of witnesses. I didn't sabotage him, she said, mic thin in her hand and still enough. I brought tea. On the catwalk, Mr. Han raised a hand. Mr. Do reached for a switch. Cut the mains, Han snapped. The stage went dark. A single follow spot, however, did not. Found Era's face like an old friend. Battery, Ms. Choi said in the comms. A small triumph underlined in adrenaline. They can't cut what we carry. The arena's silence pressed its palm to the moment. Then, from the cheap seats, a voice, uncertain and perfect. We believe you. One light stick lit. Then 100. Then 1,000. The galaxy came back, star by star, powered by people who had decided to make their own electricity. Security converged on Mr. Do. The first guard hesitated, loyalty calculating in the narrow space between career and conscience. Mr. Do ran. Phones lifted, screens recording not scandal but a pivot. Sirens began to learn the route to the back dock. On stage, Min-jae reached for Era's hand. Not PR, not choreography. She took it like oxygen. Sing, she mouthed. He did. No mask. No in-ear. Just a voice that had found its map. Halfway through the verse, Miss Choi's phone buzzed in her pocket. Unknown number. 3 words. No punctuation. Studio tomorrow noon. The sender, a sponsor too big to bully. She smiled for the first time in days, sharp and tired and victorious where it counted. The song rose. The arena sang back. Lights like constellations. Receipts like scripture. A manager who'd rediscovered her faith. A girl who had learned how to stop apologizing for existing in a public sentence. A boy who had put down a mask and picked up himself. In the control room, Mr. Han watched the crowd become immune to him. He called a lawyer. He called a spin doctor. He called no one who could stop what happens when a story chooses honesty. Backstage, police shoes squeaked on paint. Mr. Do's badge hit the floor with a sound that wasn't nearly loud enough for what it meant. On stage, the bridge hit. Min-jae's voice broke once, then mended in the same breath. Era squeezed his hand twice. A code they hadn't agreed on and didn't need to. The final chorus arrived like a home you build instead of buy. The power grid surrendered. The people did not. As the last note held, the house lights finally found their way back. The screen went white, then clean, then displayed one line of text Miss Choi had loaded in contingency. We will not be edited. The arena answered with a roar that felt like a verdict. And then, just as relief started to form in the bone, someone's shadow crossed the upstage exit and a camera flash popped from the dark. Too close, too private, too practiced to be a fan. Ms. Choi's calm hissed. Heads up, a tech whispered. We're not done. Han's people are moving toward the press room. They're preparing a statement. What statement? Era asked. Their version of you, Ms. Choi said. Unless we get there first. She looked at the clock. She looked at the faces in the seats, soft, fierce, deciding. She looked at the two hands joined center stage. Run, she said into both their ears, voice fierce and oddly calm. Run toward the microphones. Tell it before it gets told. They ran. The song still hung in the air like a promise trying to pick a shape. The hallway filled with footsteps choosing a side. Somewhere, a door slammed on the past. Somewhere else, one opened. The corridor ran like a fuse. Staff scattered. Radios chirped half-truths. And the air smelled of hot cables and intent. Ms. Choi moved ahead of them. A slim hurricane with a laptop under one arm and a voice that made doors obey. "Press room in 30 seconds, she said. "Mic 3 is clean. If Han tries to cut the feed, talk louder." They burst through double doors into a white box of light and lenses. Reporters lifted phones like small altars. Mr. Han stood at the podium with a smile that had never paid retail. Mr. Du wasn't there. Security had him on a hallway floor 3 doors down, cuffs biting through arrogance. "And in light of recent confusion," Han was saying, "we will be announcing an amicable. We'll be announcing the truth," Ms. Choi said, crossing to the switcher table and plugging in her laptop without asking permission. The main screen behind the podium flickered, then found the timeline again. VIP pit, red dot, Mr. Du's hand. A murmur climbed the walls. Han didn't turn. "Choi," he said, "step away from the—" "Ask him why security bought a laser diode the week of the fall," she said to the room. "Ask him why the maintenance shop comped the battery because security always forgets to charge. Ask him why a staffer edited the dressing room clip and pushed it from a conference room on 14. Every camera pivoted. Han kept smiling the way ships keep whistling after they hit the iceberg. "We're handling an internal review," he said. "Tonight is about music." Min-jae stepped to the mic before the word music could hide behind anyone. "No mask. No apology. Tonight is about people," he said quietly. "And whether we use them." A reporter up front, sharp bob, sharper notebook, raised a hand. "Is your engagement real?" she asked. The word real had swords tucked inside it. Era stood a half step behind him and breathed once, twice, 10 counts in, 10 out, the way she had taught him to make minutes hospitable. She reached past him, pulled the mic closer, and let the room see her decide. "It started as a shield," she said, voice steady in a way armies dream of. "We used it to survive a storm someone else made. But the parts that matter aren't props. He's learning how to breathe with the lights on. I'm learning how to let people love me without letting them own me." She glanced at Han. "That includes agencies." "You misled the public," someone said near the back. "We protected ourselves while we found the truth," she answered. "Now we're here to show it." Ms. Choi split the rear screen. Timeline on one half, invoices on the other. Talk show backup nested picture-in-picture with the wide shot from the arena. Evidence stacked until even the microphones felt heavier. Han's phone buzzed. He glanced down. Whatever he read didn't like him. He put the phone away and tried a different tone. "I understand emotion," he said, fake warm. "But we must manage narrative. If we let anyone with a camera decide." "The people in those seats decided," Ms. Choi said. "Sponsors are deciding. Law is deciding." Her phone vibrated. She didn't look. "And if you'd like to manage anything, try your own security." The door opened at the side of the room. 2 officers stepped in, a third behind with a clipboard and a patient expression. "Mr. Du," the lead said into his radio, "is in custody." He looked at Han. "We'll need statements." Lenses aided whole. Han's smile cracked on the left side first. "Questions?" Ms. Choi offered, sweet as a locked drawer. Hands shot up. She pointed to the sharp bob reporter. "If this engagement goes forward," the reporter asked, "is it because of brand synergy or because you're in love?" The room loves easy blood. Era watched the question looking for a wound and refused to bleed on command. She turned to Min-jae. He didn't look at the floor or at Ms. Choi or at the screen that had once owned him. He looked at Era the way you look at whether you intend to keep living in. "It's because last night I could sing," he said. "And when I looked for why, it was her." Gasps again, cheaper this time, but still currency. Somebody near the door clapped once without meaning to and then hid the hand. "Follow up?" the reporter said softly. "Are you still engaged?" Era looked at the ring box Ms. Choi had refused to let the brand own. She looked at the room that would make a meal out of any answer. Then she looked at him. "We're still choosing each other," she said. "Every morning. Not once for a campaign." The room wrote the sentence down in a dozen wrong ways. It didn't matter. They hadn't said it for the room. Han cleared his throat, discovered it came with consequences, and stepped back from the podium like someone had moved the edge of the stage without telling him. "We will cooperate fully," he said to the air. "Kang, you'll hear from legal." "Have them sing it to my manager," Min-jae said, and the room laughed in a way that was kind to him and not to Han. The press conference ended the way storms end. Abruptly, then everywhere at once. Reporters spilled into hallways to file before the next angle. Officers took statements with pens that had heard worse. Han vanished through a door marked employees only and discovered it no longer meant him. In the corridor, Ms. Choi leaned against the wall, closed her eyes, and let victory hurt the way relief does. Then she opened them and became logistics again. "Sponsor at noon tomorrow," she said. "We'll talk terms. We'll protect the art. We will not be edited." "Choi," Era said, and the manager looked up ready to fight. "Thank you." Miss Choi nodded like a person who will feel that later when there's time. Outside, the night had cleaned itself. Fans, quieter now, steadier, waited with signs that said things that didn't require shouting. "Take your time. We'll wait." Someone had drawn the mask on a little stick and written "Tool," not God under it in careful pen. They walked to the car, then didn't get in. The air was good. The city hummed in a key that didn't argue with their breathing. "10 in, 10 out?" Era asked. "Always," he said. They did it together, and it felt less like a technique and more like a promise. He reached for her hand. It fit like the answer to a question you didn't know you'd been asking since you were old enough to ask anything. "Sing me something," she said. "Small. Just for 2 people." He did. Not a hit. Not a demo. A verse that sounded like sunlight finding a table at noon. When he forgot a line, she laughed and supplied one. It was the kind of music that doesn't ask for applause because it already has a home. Car door opened behind them. Ms. Choi stuck her head out. "I'm not your mother," she said. "But it's cold. Get in. We have 8 hours of sleep to schedule." They got in. The city slid past. Better than it had been the night before and not yet what it could be. Ms. Choi's phone lived in her lap, silent for once. She drove like a person who had relearned trust in straight lines. At Era's building, Min-jae walked her to the door. The hallway light flickered on cue, then held, as if the building had decided to behave. "If the next storm hits," he said, "I want to be where you are when it does." "Then learn where I keep the towels," she said, unlocking. "And the spare key." He smiled, soft and a little surprised by how easy the sentence made itself. "Breakfast. Burn 1 gyoza," she said. "On purpose." He leaned in. No audience. No angle. Just a kiss that felt like the end of a long inhale. "Go," she whispered. "Sleep. We fight again tomorrow." He left, steps lighter. She closed the door and leaned her forehead against the wood and let herself be happy in a way that didn't need a camera. Epilogue came quietly, like good news that respects your neighbors. Sponsors called and said the word artist like they meant it. Mr. Do's badge became evidence. Mr. Han took a leave that might never end. The Ring campaign rebranded itself as a promise project and donated half its budget to stagehand safety. The mask sat on a shelf in Min-jae's studio, a tool waiting politely to be chosen or not. On a Tuesday that felt like a fresh page, they filmed a kitchen video with no script. He burned a dumpling. She saved a pan. Hannah from the comments sent a message that said, "I breathe 468 now tie." At the end, Era taped their old fridge sign to a new stainless door. "Breathe here." They did. Together. And when the lights blinked once, like the building remembered too, nobody flinched. They laughed. Then they kept living.